We got Star Wars Overload today. Outside of the Tales of the Jedi episodes, we also got Episode 8, Narkina 5 of the Andor series, and much of the episode, of course, was some sort of a build-up. It's a build-up to another culmination, and two characters are searching themselves, essentially. It is Andor, who is being imprisoned and processed through the jail system of the Empire, through the injustice and how he will come to present himself as a rebel in the future, especially in Rogue One, but also for Luthen, who admittedly later on in the episode says to Saw Gerrera that he is a coward, not being able to face the consequences of choosing sides. From the jump, the episode makes clear that Cassian is slowly understanding the price for losing your freedom in the new regime of the Empire, especially with the poured legislator that the Empire has executed throughout the galaxy. We see that immediately take effect with Cassian Andor. Once he is brought to Narkina 5, it is made immediately clear how rough prison laborers have it. He will need to work a 16-hour shift every day, and if he does not, he gets tortured by its own floor. All the prisoners are barefoot, and if they don't comply, they are tortured via electricity shock through the tungstoid steel. Once he's on the job, we see the appearance of Andy Serkis finally. He was poised to make an appearance, and he is essentially the floor manager for all the prisoners that have to do labor. I'm glad to see Andy Serkis back into the Star Wars fold. If you haven't forgotten already, Andy Serkis voiced Snoke in the sequel trilogy. So this means this is the second time around for him, but a different character altogether. And if he didn't make an impression back then, my golly did he do it this time in the steam/shower room scene. Disney has kind of broken the mold of its past self. I mean, Andor is breaking all the rules every single episode, and this time we got to see a bunch of sweaty, naked men going to get their uniforms. Leading the pack, of course, was Andy Serkis himself. We also see the cell conditions that Cassian Andor has to get accustomed to, his days remaining locked up, as well as the floor at night will burn you alive if you step onto it. Back at the ISB though, things are not going that smoothly. Dedra has trouble convincing Yularen of a built-up Rebel Alliance cell, but with the help of Petrogas, she essentially reaches her goal. Also, with the help of, maybe non-voluntarily, Cyril, who she calls up into the ISB for questioning. We learn that Cyril, during his time, had not been doing his work as per usual, but has been making false claims for a Cassian Andor, trying to find his location. We understand now that Cyril has not yet forgotten the man who murdered two corporal officers back on Marlana. And while I don't think this will be the last time we see Cyril, it seems like he has been used and discarded by Dedra at this moment, so time will tell. What I think most of the episode showed, however, is not only the consequences of the poured legislator, of how everybody in the prison were worried about their doubling their sentences and new people being brought in every single day, signifying the changing shifts of the galaxy. What's more interesting is, for the first time, we see him and Clea essentially clash very, very hard. Now that Bix is trying to contact him, he decides to close the channel altogether. There are also some Easter eggs around his shop that I'm going to talk about in a separate video, but it's getting very interesting to revisit constantly Luthen's shop and see all these shifts in the products, and especially Starkiller's mask is something you need to pay attention to, because we saw more than one what that signifies. Bix, though, had made a grand mistake. By sending out that signal, the Empire, already locked down on Ferrix, did intercept that signal, identified where the signal came from, and eventually it led to Bix, who saw her friend tortured, and now she is in big trouble, as Dedra personally came down to Ferrix to interrogate her, and that was essentially left for the next episode to see what the consequences of that will be. Before I close out with Luthen, I wanted also to mention the brief appearance of Mon Mothma and Vel. By her conversation with Citra, it seems that Vel comes from a wealthy family. She's been disillusioned and she abandoned them as a young woman, now trying to make a name for herself for the rebellion. However, her prime goal is to find Cassian Andor and basically kill him. But she is conflicted with her emotions for Citra, who is focused on the mission. I believe that now that Vel abandoned Ferrix, it will be Citra who saves Bix, and it will be some emotional complications probably. Mon Mothma though does not get any good news. Her accounts cannot escape the eye of the Empire, and it will be interesting to see where she will get the final financing. Will she be able to outmaneuver the Empire? Lastly, let's talk about Luthen. He heads for Segra Milo. After arriving, we then learn that this is the holdout for Saw Gerrera's partisans, or at least that's what they'll be known in the future. We get a glimpse of an early prototype of an X-Wing, and again, keeping in line with what Andor has delivered so far, I think the dialogue was perfect. I really enjoy the adult talk in Andor. Most of Star Wars is essentially filled with this short, snippy, kiddie talk where things are basic, you can understand them, that's why they're for all ages, but these kind of discussions, especially the ones that Luthen and Saw had, are not for kids. And it eventually boils down to Luthen being frustrated that Saw Gerrera does not work with anybody else. He is a loner. Him and his men destroy pockets of the Empire wherever they could find them. Luthen, however, is trying to convince Saw to come together with the other factions and they can hit the Empire where it hurts the most. The conversation evolves, though, into a very interesting corner where we now get the questioning of Luthen's character. Saw turns the tables on Luthen and questions his resolve. Where is he in all of this? Luthen admits that he is, in the end, a coward. He hides behind the scenes and let the others do the work for him, but his fear is that the Empire would grow to a point beyond they can do anything. Lastly, this does not convince Saw Gerrera, and it seems like negotiations have fallen apart. But if you've seen the trailers, you know that there is more conversation coming, and I see a better future for these two guys, perhaps even in episode 9, so we'll have to wait and see till the next episode. But guys, let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for dailies. Now you can have an awesome day, Star Wars fans. I'll see you in the next video, and may the Force be with you. Until then.